Johnny Fontana, Half Amazing TV, back with another video. I've been doing a lot of research online. I've been seeing a lot of these DJs. It's upsetting to me because a lot of the DJs are being exposed to the wrong kind of DJs.
It's almost, I think that in a way, culturally, and this is potentially dangerous, is we're sacrificing rare creativity that has depth for ubiquitous creativity that's very shallow. Letters versus emails. You know, a letter was rare, but people would tend to write quite a lot. Emails are ubiquitous, and they tend to just be 10, 20 words. It's the same thing with like a piece of music 30 years ago. Someone might work on it for 6 months and really struggle, and it was rare and perhaps had depth, whereas now someone can make an okay sounding piece of music in 30 minutes and might not have as much depth.
Nothing wrong with hip-hop, open format, EDM DJs. There's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of DJs, especially those who are into electronic music, house music, tech house, progressive, they're seeing these James Hypes, they're seeing these Andrew Nobles, they're seeing these DJ Cities, they're seeing these.
But the room was tough. Like, you know, you have to play certain verses all the way to the end. Couldn't shit like today. Oh, these kids, you guys cut shit in 50 seconds. Next record, they're singing every lyric, and if they don't get shit off, they're like, yo, this DJ is fucking trash. And they'll throw some bottles at you. Yeah.
You got a bottle thrown at you.
But see, that's the thing. Maybe there's not enough people throwing bottles at you guys. And
It's
today.
not. No, I agree with you.
Maybe I should come up with the OGs and start throwing bottles at you guys so you guys know not to do it again.
And it's like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
The way I'm going to put it out there and organize the selection, that's really what kind of like motivates me. That's what like drives me when I'm DJing in the club.
As it should in the
Right.
club, yeah, for sure.
When you focus on the technical, like when technical DJs focus on how they approach a night, it's always like when they work on the transitions, it's always tone play based, word play based, or it's kind of like, it's not about the energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, true story.
Yeah.
I'm more like you than that. Even with the turntable shit, I would always just save that shit to the end. So for me, it was never technical. For me, it was always vibes.
But you know what I mean, though? The way
Yeah.
certain technical, the way they approach it.
Yeah, I think that's more of a three-style thing, though, because
So
even
you-
8-track
yeah.
never mixed like that. I don't remember. Like, we would always save the technical shit for the end because we knew we never could come back from that. If you were to do technical shit, then that's all that people would want to see. Not in a club, but like if they were there for you. Like after doing technical shit, it was a wrap.
Afro house. Between 90 and 98, there was a more of a tribal style house, right? New York, Miami style, Chicago. And then from 2001 to 2011, 12, there was a different type of Afro house, right? From the UK, from Spain, from Italy, from Germany, and so forth and so on. But then around 2013, I started to hear more about black coffee. And immediately I was like, the Afro house that we once knew, the tribal stuff, and then after Afro house, because even Europe didn't understand tribal. Because when I left New York City to live in Europe, they didn't understand tribal. They understood the Balearic style from Spain, but they didn't understand the tribal, the big room, progressive tribal stuff. Nonetheless, I said, unfortunately, this is when I said in 2013, we're in 2020 now, 7 years ago, I called it. I said, Afro House is gonna go Afro Tech. Because why? Because more people were coming into electronic music, but more people who look like the hipsters, posers, not that hipsters are posers, but along with the hipsters, the posers, and other people who weren't really into that style. You see what I'm saying to you? They were more into just the tech, so it was easy for that tech stuff to transition, into the Afro sound and then create more of like a And that's why around like 2015, 2016, 17, like guys in Miami started playing this really slow Afro deep tech stuff, which is different than what they used to play progressive in 2007. Like Ivano Bellini used to play very big progressive, and all of a sudden playing like 120, 121 BPM Afro deep tech, whatever. And I was like, okay, everyone's conforming, whatever. And you have them playing Afro house, which is not really Afro house, it's more like Latin trap. And they're going from like one song to another song, quick transition. It's good for that kind of crowd, but it's like you're smoking a cigarette. Smoking a cigar is a totally different experience.
It's a beautiful, elegant format, so
May
it would
I
be a
cut that
pleasure.
for you?
Please. And so how do you light a cigar?
The key is to use something that doesn't create an aroma. So we'll use the third match to get that up and running.
Part of the ritual of lighting a cigar.
And this is, and I hope the first draw for you will be as enjoyable as it's been for me lighting it. You know a lot about my smoking enjoyment. I would love to know what brought you into cigars. What was your first experiences and enjoyment of a cigar?
You know, to me, it always just kind of went along with, you know, kind of the finer gentleman pursuit. And so what I love about a cigar is it's really, I find it more than anything else is a commitment to time, right? So if we're gonna light a nice cigar, we're kind of committed to spending some time together, or at least enjoying one's time. And that's one of the reasons I find myself that I prefer some of the longer formats.
You see what I'm saying to you? So that's what I do. Essentially, when I mix, when I play music, it's like smoking a cigar. No rush. Enjoy the experience. Enjoy the moment. You see what I'm saying to you?
I think it's very strange. In the last 10 or 12 or 15 years, I've had so many conversations with people in the music business about what's going, like the digital revolution. And all the conversations, I just sit back and listen. And for the most part, people just talk about like how to new digital delivery streams or proprietary this or ways of increasing revenue streams. And whenever anyone talks about the future of the record company, they talk about the delivery vehicles or new marketing strategies. I've never once heard anyone in the music business talk about the future of the music business being making better records. No one has ever mentioned that. Everyone talks about the digital side of it. And I was like, why don't you sign interesting artists and have them make nice music? And when I've mentioned that to people in the record business, they just look confused. And so I feel like a lot of the content providers feel like they have to fool people into spending money for content.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and read an email from one of my subscribers, one of my associates. His name is Supun Jayasiri. I think it's that. He's from Sri Lanka. We've been going back and forth a lot. He's a very, very cool fellow. He says, when mixing vocal deep, most of the tracks I have is after the 16 bars, right, which is about 32 seconds. It has a break, which is, it goes and then it's like for 16 bars, 30 seconds, and then it goes to a breakdown. A lot of that stuff, as you said, example, Treat Me Right, Nico Culture Remix, that's more of like the progressive deep melodic vocal stuff that you find a lot in Europe. Okay, I play that stuff too, don't get me wrong, you know. And when I was in Miami, I was playing a lot of Romanian house, a lot of Russian house, like a lot of, you know, artists who I play are from Europe, from Germany, from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Russia, Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia. So a lot of those guys, they play a lot of the ethno house, very melodic, you know, stuff like that. So I get it, especially more the commercial stuff like DJ Sava and all these guys. They play and it's like 30 seconds, boom, I get it, which is easy to mix. But he says, as per your tutorials, you loop the outgoing track with incoming track and keep it hits a break or 16 bars to keep the energy going. So what he's saying is that while it hits the break, I have the next track playing. But this kind of situation, when the incoming track has only vocal or melodic part of that transition, after that transition, we hear the outgoing tracks loop in the background with the vocal or melodic part of the main track incoming. So when that happens, it feels not good. That's when he does it. I feel like it's not professional. In that kind of situation, what's the best thing to do? Keep the outgoing tracks loop as you do in your tutorial, or kill the outgoing track totally when the incoming track hits the break. Again, his experience is different because a lot of those songs, a lot of those tracks are very melodic. So he's trying to figure out, like, how do I get out of that without sounding like a hot bag of trash? But guess what? I play a lot of that stuff, especially when I play in cafes and so forth and so on. That's my main thing. So I've learned to master that. And guess what? I'm not like these open format DJs and just cut. No, we're smoking cigars, all right? And another thing, it says mix them too early. Let's say there's a track intro starts after the 16 beats. The next 16 bars only contains the bass and small elements, and the next 16 bars where the full energy comes in and a full beat, hi-hat, snares, etc. Normally, we start the mixing from the intro, but he starts mixing from the bass. I like to start mixing from, not from the intro, but after the intro, which, the bass starts. So when that's the case, after 16 bars, the full energy track comes when we switch the bass, so the energy momentum keeps going and you don't feel the uplifting. What's your thoughts on this? So he basically is saying that when he mixes starting from the bass. So by the time that it gets to the full range track, there's no more uplifting. Again, perfect question. It goes back to what I've said before. It all depends on what style of music you're playing. When you're playing this kind of house, which we'll play, which is the more progressive, deep cafe, outdoor venue, smooth, sexy, very sophisticated. Take your time. Relax. You're not going anywhere. Don't be in a rush to mix the bass. Start from the beginning. Intro, outro. Remember my last video? In the beginning, it was intro, outro, outro. And then from there, I went into the big stuff. I was mixing, breakdown mixing, and then at the end, I was doing all stuff. Again, it all depends on what song you're playing for and what crowd and what kind of music you're playing.
We would always save the technical shit for the end because we knew we never could come back from that. Like, after doing the technical shit, it was a wrap.
But once you start doing that, do you feel caught up? Like you have, like, damn, I gotta keep coming up with new mixes and new tone play for the next shows.
Only one I spin with Zach.
Only with Zach.
Don't get into this habit of trying to think that you can play every music the same style, because it just doesn't work like that. That's why I said, when you, and a lot of DJs, he was playing the deep house set, but there was no tricks. Because again, when you're playing for a crowd that's eating, for relaxing, chilling, you're not doing all this crazy stuff because people are not ready for that yet. You want to settle their minds, enjoy the night, and then there will be time for that.
People were just like vibing. They would see what I was doing, but I wasn't busting. I was just mixing, and it was dope. And I want that. I want, it's like I look at techno DJs and I'm like, that looks like fun. He looks bored, but it looks like fun.
Bored, you mean like as far as mixing?
As he's in his world, and he's just he doesn't give a fuck what's going on. He's like, ooh, this next one. Oh, you know what I mean? Like he's in his own little world, and I kind of like that shit.
It's like pure selecting, like
yeah.
But you feel like you're in a stage right now where you can do that, or you've always felt like that?
I mean, I've always done it.
He's just being vocal about it now.
Yeah, I'm just being vocal about it now.
All right, so let's get into the tutorial. All right, so what we have now, we have two tracks, right? We have the Treat Me Right track, and we have another track which I will allow to play out so then you can hear it. I don't want to introduce it just yet because it's a classic track, so we'll wait till we reveal that one. So what we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to do two mixes with this Treat Me Right track, right? We're going to first find out what we're dealing with, okay? So here we go. Okay, so you're looking at 16 bar round, and then it starts. Okay, which is fine. Now the end. What are we doing here? We're looking at the end to see how it ends off. Because again, because I've played a lot of these tracks, I know that usually with the 30 seconds, 16 bars, it's usually the same structure. So you sort of have an idea of how to work with these things. Now you're looking at the end. Okay, what's going on here? What's happening? It's like, whoa, about 30 seconds left. So hopefully this little empty spot right here is like a perfect transition spot. Uh-oh. Let's just keep on going. Melody after melody after melody. It's like, what do you do? Okay. Obviously, you know, you can't really mix here. So now you have a couple options. One, you can just edit it, you know, like I showed you before on my previous videos, and then create something like this where it's more DJ friendly. Or you can play it here and then you can loop it like this and hope for the best, right? That the next track that comes in is not as busy melodically and it doesn't collide. You may have to do that sometimes because sometimes you're playing, you're nervous, you're speeding things up, and because there's so much melody, you may have to do that. Or you find your spot where you think you can actually do like a loop where it's empty spot. I don't like that one. Alright, there was something there, right? So what happens now? There was something there, which means that you're gonna have to go off beat now. This is where now we talked about before, right? The whole going fast, mixing, you know, and all that stuff. This is where the complexity lies, where now you have to now start thinking and understanding where you are. Watch. Off beat. I'm saying to you? So now, what are your choices now? You want to keep a loop there, you want to set a cue point, or you want to go on a fly? For me, especially for people who are not so, they're not so familiar with the loop process, they have so much going on in their mind, the game hasn't slowed down yet, which means that you can think about different stuff. This may be something that it's like, oh man, that's another extra thing that I have to think about, which I'm not ready yet for. So you may have to set a loop. Other people who are a little bit more in tune to what's going on, they like working on the fly, such as myself. I will let it go and then I'll loop it on the fly. Now, sometimes I may not want to do that. I'll skim the track throughout while I'm playing it, and then I'll set that cue point so that it alleviates a lot of things, okay? But sometimes I'll just do it on the fly. So let's go ahead and do it on the fly, and we have to figure out this track. So, all right, ladies and gents, I ran into a technical snag. Unfortunately, I loaded up this video and it was snagged by the copyright monster because of a particular track. I mean, it was a fairly popular track. Everybody. It was a new disco remix by Black Box. So as you could probably tell why it was snagged. Okay, so therefore I've had to now replace it and redo this segment. Okay, I have the other Afro mix that I previously recorded coming after this, but I sort of had to sort of come in, interject, be like, hey, move out the way, let's get it started, right? I didn't want to just leave you guys hanging. So what I did was that I replaced it with another beautiful track by one of my good friends, Johnny Bravo in Poland, featuring Paulina Griffith, right? She is actually a pretty well-known electronic music singer. She's also, I think she speaks Russian, or I think she's from Poland as well. And she's good friends with Johnny Bravo, and out of the De Palma Records label from Germany, Yves Muraska, right? You got to know your people, right? You got to be connected like that in terms of being able to appreciate and show respect. Okay, so this is a beautiful track. I'm going to mix it. Now, this right here is the epitome of melodic mixing, meaning that both of the tracks have melodic elements in their intros and outros, okay? And like this is where like the technicalities and the patience of electronic music really shines. I mean, when I say shines, I gotta take a sip of my Cuban Cafe Bustelo. I know a lot of people don't like it because they think it's cheap, but it's excellent. But I'm telling you, what we're about to do right now requires a lot of patience, a lot of dedication, and a lot of poise. Meaning that there's going to be a lot of things happening. You're going to have a lot of musical elements. You're going to have to use your EQ. You're going to have to bring things down to the sweet spot where there's not too much music and there's not that much dead space. At the same time, you're going to have to loop. At the same time, you're going to have to use your EQs and switch them at the right place in order to really captivate and capture this beautiful melodic transition mix. Before we even get into that, let's get and check out what we're working with, right? So we have this holding on track. So you can tell, all right, it's not even on a beat. Just melodies. 45 seconds in. 1 minute in. 1 minute and a half. 145. 2 minutes in. Close to 2:15 seconds, right? So it's like, wow. I'm not even gonna play the rest because I'm telling you, whew, like we gotta show respect to Johnny. But so let's see how it ends. Okay, so we got it coming out like this. All right. Well, oh wow. Well, you thought it was gonna be just a silent, right? Like that dead space, just the beat only, and maybe a bass and a few highs and snares. No, it's going and going just like the other track. So people want to challenge, want to be like, yo, how do you mix melodic? All right, so there's a dead space here. Again, going back to what we did before, right? I mean, if you want really clean, I would stick away from that. So I would go a little back here. So at 7 seconds right there, you have a little bit of space to work with. So I would bring it back here. That's your loop right there. That's what you're gonna work with. So now the question is, how do I mix that with Treat Me Right? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna play Treat Me Right first, mix this song, and then mix Treat Me Right into that song. So we're gonna swap, right? Now, it's a challenge, right? I haven't mixed it yet. Okay, I've been working on it, I've been checking it out, but I actually haven't done the full mix. So this is the first run through. It may be great, it may be spot on, it may not be, okay? I mean, I already know what to do, but I just haven't finalized it, right? So this is the first time that we're gonna actually hear the final process, and also keeping in mind that there are different BPMs as well, and also the fact is that I'm using my controller. You've already seen me use my CDJs and mixers, so this is for time purposes only, right? So I'm gonna have to do everything manually. I mean, my BPMs have to be manually by my fingers, whatever. Hey, so let's start it off. All right, so we know we gotta get. So I'm gonna test this out. All right, so I'm gonna keep that loop. So the reason why I keep my loops is so that you want to be able to bring these in as smoothly as possible. A lot of DJs, what they do, they wait till the last minute and then they bring the song in. That's where you have that dead space, right? We're booth riders, we don't have dead space. We're not bags of trash. We are official booth riders, right? We do it correctly, and this is where we shine. This is where we show the difference between the 3-style DJs, the quick mixers and all that stuff, and the ones who just mix dark, deep techno with no melody. This is where we shine. This is where we say, oh no. That's different. That requires skill. That requires patience. That requires finesse. So let's go. So now you know that's about 2:15, right? So we're gonna have to wait. And I'm gonna wait until that first kick in, that drop, and then drop it. And we know we're gonna have to loop it anyway. All right. I'm gonna bring it in now. Now remember, you're bringing it slowly, but you don't want to bring in too much because of the melody here. Adjust your BPMs. Don't be a bag of trash. You have to have a fine ear for this because you don't want to have to bring it up all the way to fix it. Bring it when it's low. See? Bring it down. And while you're doing this, you're keeping the volume low, making sure the BPM, don't forget to loop. Now slowly bring down the bass. Sweet spot. Because what happens if you let it go? See? Sweet spot. Let this track allow you to remove the elements from that one.
Give me just one reason why we shouldn't be together. You hold it, fact away from me. It's
Johnny Bravo. Poland. Let's go.
And it holding us away. Yes, it's holding us away. And it's holding us away from love. And it's holding us away. Yes, it's holding us away. And it's holding us away from love.
All right, so now we're gonna get back, and now we're gonna mix this one into that one. Remember, even before I talk to you, what do you remember about that track? That's a dangerous track. This is a dangerous track. If you don't do what you need to do, if you're not finessing it, if you're not official with your EQ, with your volume, and you miss your loop, you're dead duck.
Yes, it's holding us away.
I'm gonna give Johnny his respect. This track is beautiful.
Holding us away.
Man, I can't wait to go back to Europe. Can't wait. Can't wait. Johnny Bravo, let's go.
Life is kinda empty without you by my side. Oh, some days away, passing useless through the way. Love is slowly disappearing. Is there something we can do? Save the world with me and you. Something holding us from love. Something holding us.
I'm gonna set this one.
And it holding us away. Yes, it's holding us away. And it's holding us away from love.
Just bring it high enough just so that you can tell what's happening, so you can adjust your BPMs. And the reason why I'm doing it again, because that track, it's gonna sort of come to like a not a complete dead space or a dead spot, but the elements are going to dissolve rather quickly. So I don't want to like a lot of DJs do, they just wait for the dead zone and then they start bringing the new track in. You don't want to do that. You want everything to flow. You want everything to sit nice. Flush it. Ready? Now, beat. You don't want to cut the bass all the way. I'll tell you when to. Now. Quickly go to the sweet spot. Bring it down, one with the song. Now that was a tough one. Now what I did was that you don't want to remove things. You want to go to that sweet spot so the bass is not clashing, but then you have some semblance of music, because again, here's why this is important. Remember, when you're working with energy, when you're with a crowd who's dancing where they're just like this, they're not really in tune to the subtleties of the music. But when people are sitting down, listening, enjoying their cafe, smoking their cigar, they're more in tune to the elements, especially when it comes to music. So that's why you want to make sure that you're not messing, with the music in terms of just cutting it really quickly. All right. So that's it for that. I'm going to cut into my other previously recorded Afro House transition mix, and we'll see you on the flip side. So I basically let it go because I didn't want to just come out, because it would sound as if it was abrupt. So I let it go as if it was part of it, and then as that transition was ending into the drop, I lowered this one nice and slow so that it's part of the music, right? Again, it's the patience, not just like, oh man, I have all this music going, what do I do? I'm nervous. Again, it's natural to feel this way. You're going to feel nervous. You're going to be like, oh, what am I doing? Whatever. What's happening? People are looking at me and whatever. Again, the game gets slower. It gets slower. You get more in control. You understand what you're doing, where you are, and then you start to now do the extra stuff that finesses the mix. You see what I'm saying to you? All right, so now we're going to get it into another track, okay? So it's going to be basically, it's not even going to be me explaining everything. You're just going to watch how I do it. Right here is where I'm going to actually start. And I'm going to loop this here because I'm going to actually have it come into here. And I want you to see what I do. I can't really explain it as much as I can actually show you what I do. So let me get this one ready. Remember, I'm not using my CDJ, so I'm doing all this manually. I can sync it right now, but I'm just like, I'm not in the mood to sync. Because again, we talked about that before. I think we'll talk about that later in terms of the sync, why sync is actually bad for you. Now, this is Afro House, dude. So now I'm gonna bring it down and then we're gonna go into that track. moving into here. I don't want to bring that song in because it's clashing. Hold up, let's go. Bring down the bass because it's too loud. Eventually I'm gonna have to loop this track. Right there I can use as a set. I can use that song with another song. So, hope that made sense, right? Also, I want to give a shout out to a DJ who actually has been talking to me. He's from the UK. His name is DJ Babs. He's got a son, 16-year-old son. I hope, we talked about certain things, and I really hope that his 16-year-old son learns from his father. And I wish him the best. We talked about the headphones, and he's a little older. He's a veteran, so I'm looking forward to hearing his music. Right, DJ Babs, shout out to you, brother. Shout out to my man, Dirty Boy. You know who you are, out in Long Beach, California. Bilal, all these guys doing their thing. So anyway, Johnny Fontana, half amazing TV. We out.